Hi, this is the Sleuth Investor channel. But what do you do as a stock sleuth if you can't get out of the house to talk to people in companies and around them? How do you get your physical information? What you do is prepare in advance the questions you want to ask. I spoke about these questions briefly in one of the previous clips, but this time I want to go into them a bit more deeply, just to prepare you for sleuthing when Corona is gone and you can go out of the house again. Where did I get these questions? A long time ago in the Stanford GSB, the Graduate School of Business, where I got my MBA. I got lots of good insights there, but some of the most valuable lessons were two. One was in a class called T Group, or Human Emotions Lab, where we learned to read other people by first learning to read ourselves. I'll tell you more about this in the future. But this time, I want to talk to you about one of the lessons I got in Steve Brand entrepreneurship class, how to read companies, how to really understand the business by asking 4 key questions, high and low in the company, among its customers, suppliers, and competitors, and see if they all give the same answers and if the answers are good. Later on, once I had some experience, I added a 5th question of my own, which often makes companies mad at me when I ask it. But the answer to this 5th question is often key for good long-term investing. We'll get to it. First, here are the 4 questions based, by the way, on the insights of Peter Drucker, the American management guru, as condensed for us by Professor Brandt. The first question is, who is your customer? That is, who buys what you sell? Not a company, say IBM, which buys your microchips, but which person in IBM buys your microchips? Is it an engineer who puts them in his design, or the manager of purchasing? And if so, management at what level? Corporate or only the US West Coast, say? Then still within this first question, who exactly makes the buy decision? Because you see, buy decisions have 3 participants: the users, the vetter, and the payer. The user can be the engineer who will use your chip in his design of a circuit. The vetter can be the committee that will give him the okay to buy the chips, maybe after 12 months of deliberation. And the payer can be either the engineering department chief, or the regional division CFO, or maybe even the national one. All have different implications, and each of these answers mean different things for your chip business. This is something old line entrepreneurs knew very well. For example, in old Hewlett-Packard, HP, before any engineer could design a product, he had to put on his board a photograph of the customer who would use it, a specific customer plus a picture of the customer's wife, car, and dog. In other words, the designer was encouraged to see the product as a solution to a specific customer's specific problem. Now, why is it useful for a company to think of a user and a vetter and a payer? Because this would let the company answer the second key question. What exactly is this customer buying? In marketing terms, it's called benefit to the customers. You're not selling a product. You're selling the benefit to a specific user or specific decision makers. Without dividing the customer into these 3 categories of user, vetter, and payer, you can't answer the second key question of what is he buying? Who is the he in here? That's because the benefit for the engineer using of the chip may be speed of processing, while the benefit for the vetting committee would be cheapness, but they never tell you. And the benefit for the CEO might be how long will this chip maker be willing to wait before he's paid. If you are a chip maker CEO, unless you know all these, you may be focused on what you think the customer wants without really understanding the business side of it. But the same should go for you as a sleuth investor who wants to really understand the business, and you can't do it by staying home before the internet screen. But assume you already went out and found all these out, and after Corona you could go out and you found who the customer is, what is he buying, that is, and what he wants. It now leads you straight to the third questions. What are you selling? You know who's the customer, you know what he's buying, but what are you selling? It better be the same as what the customer looks to buy. Because if the customer's purchasing committee really looks for cheapness, caring less about speed, and you design for speed only, hang the cost, you as a chip maker have a problem. In other words, as a chip maker CEO, you better be selling what the real customer really wants to buy. And as a sleuth investor, you better talk to both sides of the divide and know it too. Because if you don't, and I do, I'll take your money in the market. There are no shortcuts here. And so finally, the 4th key question, which you can only ask now, is this. Why would the customer buy his chips from you? Is it really because your chip is fastest or cheapest? Or is it because IBM purchasing manager in Philadelphia is a cousin of your salesman, so he'll buy whatever the salesman will sell him? In short, you must be able to answer all these 4 questions truthfully and realistically based on the real world in order to understand the business as it truly is. Who is the customer? What is the customer buying? What are you selling? And finally, why would he buy from you? Now over to you as a sleuth investor. As a sleuth investor, you are looking for these answers and you have to see all this level of the company. And if you ask them, you also want to see that all level of the company give you the same answers. Because if you don't get the same answers, there's a problem. Say the CEO is proud of the cheap speed, while the buyer purchaser only talk of cheapness. Then the cheap company has a future problem. It would be an especially grave problem if the lower level people in the company know the customer is looking for cheapness, while the clueless CEO is still trying to make the chip faster and faster, no matter the cost. It not only highlights a problem in this product, but also in future products, because it proves the CEO is not in touch with those below him, so other things too are probably not being done right. Therefore, this 4th question, why they buy from you as a chip maker, is really about competition, and it's tied to the first 3. To be able to answer it, you as a CEO must know what features are really important to the customer and then focus your effort on it. And for this, you must be talking to your people too. And as a sleuth investor, you must know all of this too by talking to all the people on all these sides. Because of this, even before you leave the house to sleuth around the company, you should make a list of what you think are the answers to the 4 questions based on what the company provides, the public information. But then you should go out the real world after Corona and talk to people and see what they say. If and when you do, soon you'll get a gut feel of what the business really is about and what really goes on. Do all in the business know who the real customers are? Do they all know what the customer really wants? And do they all want to supply to them so well that they beat the competition easily? Even if the answer is all yes, however, there's a real hidden 5th question here you haven't asked, and this one can be a killer. The question is this: is the business really worth doing? This question usually gets company CEOs mad at me. Or if I mentor a class of MBAs, it throws the class into an uproar when they start debating what it means a business worth doing. I'll leave this last question for another time, but I'll give you an example. Assume the government decided homeless people should be fed better and open up soup kitchens for them. Assume further you are a cordon bleu chef, higher grade chef, and got a contract to supply the Salvation Army. Of course, the customers there would love you. They're ecstatic at your bœuf bourguignon and canard à l'orange. But is it a good business? I mean, with all your skills and talent and 20 years of experience in a 3-star Michelin restaurant, is it a good business for you? Remember, you can't raise prices. The government takes 6 months to pay, and they balk at anything that you do differently, and your suppliers want cash right now. In other words, it's a wonderful human thing you are doing, but as a business, it sucks. There are quite a number of such businesses. A bunch of top PhDs and top engineers design and produce a factory robots that Skinfleet committee will approve only after 12 months. No one has authority to approve a price hike, and all the robot does is increase productivity to a 50 grand a year loader. So if it makes the loader 20% more productive, the value of the robot is 10 grand per year. And what if the robot costs 100 grand to make? 10 years payback? Really? You want to be in that business? I don't want to be in your stock. Stated simply, once you understand the business, really understand it, you'll begin to see that many seemingly sexy businesses really suck, while seemingly mundane ones are often really good. But you really have to go out about the sleuthing in a methodical way, and you must prepare for it before you leave the house, such as now. Make a list of companies you have an interest in, put down your 4 key questions, leave the 5th key one hanging, and prepare for the time you leave the house to sleuth again to talk to people. Then, when you really start talking to people, you really start taking other people's money, and you'll very soon see very few so-called investors do what you do. They just stay home before the internet, drink coffee, looking at blips, and so they end up buying what you sell and selling what you buy. Welcome to my world. Let me know what you think of all this in a comment below. Then subscribe and tell your friends what they subscribe to. I'll see you next time. And meantime, thank you very much for watching.